Good evening, everybody. Who has ever said what's wrong with kids these days, or old folks need to learn some new technology? Different generations tend to not understand the other, which causes confusion, anger, and even resentment. But what makes people in groups different from one another? It's the way they were raised. It's the culture they were exposed to, or even more. There are numerous reasons that make everyone different. Which generation category you fit into plays an important role into each person's character. Dictionary.com defines the word generation as a group of individuals, most of whom are the same approximate age and have similar ideas, problems, attitudes, etc. The attributes of different generations range from a view of similarities to vast differences. If you compare your own generation to that of your parents or your grandparents, you will find many variations. In Schwartz's 2008 book called Generations at Work, he wrote generations have different views on social and political influences, family structures, education, values, and work ethics. Because generations have such varying characteristics, it can cause problems in areas where different age groups work together. When a person understands the various generational characteristics that each group holds, they can learn how to overcome obstacles and work side by side with one another. Because a generational gap exists, each person must put forth the effort to overcome this and work towards a common goal. The young and the old must come together. I believe this happens in every workplace. Every job has the old timers, and every job has the newbies. Groups like the baby boomers and the millennials, they've got totally opposite points of view. The older generation typically thinks the younger generation is spoiled, has no work ethic, changes jobs frequently. The younger generation thinks that the older is out of touch with today's world and does not understand where they're coming from. It's interesting for me the various characteristics of each generation. It's easy to imagine someone we know fit in the category perfectly when we hear the numerous traits listed. I feel that if we are aware of other age groups' points of view, then we can work together more effectively. When looking at generations, it is best to look at each group's ideas, characteristics, their values. So that is what I will do during this speech. The first group to evaluate is known as the baby boomers. People in this group were born between the mid-1940s and the mid-1960s. Baby boomers were influenced by big events like the Vietnam War, President Kennedy's assassination, civil rights movements, even Woodstock, to name a few. Freud wrote in his 2013 book, Understanding Global Generational Shifts, this era grew up questioning authority and putting an emphasis on work. Typical characteristics of boomers include having self-confidence, admirable leadership, and not dealing with conflict. Work is a defining point of a boomer's life. They work long hours. They dress in business attire. And they work to build their career. They do not change jobs frequently, and they're motivated by salary, and they're motivated by title. They prefer using the telephone or having in-person conversations. Baby boomers need to know they are valued, and they also need to know that they are appreciated and that they are wanted. Generation X is the next group of people I will evaluate. They were born from the mid-1960s to 1980. Great year, by the way. That's when I was born. The events that influenced Generation X was the explosion of the Challenger. I remember it well. The Watergate scandal. And the fall of the Berlin Wall. Gen Xers, as they are commonly called, are known for being independent and adaptable because they watch their parents sacrifice so much, including their family, for their jobs. They have a better work-family balance. Their careers are not the most important factor. Their life is what matters most. Gen Xers want to know what is expected of them and need the ability to question authority. They tend to be motivated by independence and not traditional perks. Generation Y, also called millennials, were born in the early 1980s to the late 1990s. This group was brought up with the thought, you played, you get a medal. They were raised by parents who protected, nurtured, structured their life. They were taught to make their own decisions. This generation is very tech savvy. They grew up with computers, and they're also known as the I generation, or the internet generation. They've been influenced by events like the Columbine school shoots, the Monica Lewinsky scandal, the Oklahoma City bombing. Millennials were brought up to show empowerment, and they're not afraid to express their opinions. I know I'm not. Schwartz writes in his 2008 work called Generations at Work that millennials have been called Generation Me for being confident, but also self-absorbed and demanding. This group has a hard time with the 8 to 5 hour workday. They prefer to make their own schedules and will choose text messages or email to communicate with others. Love them. They love a challenge and they work well with the team members. But patience is not one of their virtues. They want what they want, and they want it right then. In conclusion, knowing all the differences between generations, it's no wonder that there's disruption in the workplace. We all need to take time to learn how to work with, motivate, and reward other generations. There are several benefits when different age groups can understand one another and how to work out well in the same environment. Communication becomes more effective with minimal misunderstandings. companies can have better employee retention and increased productivity. Teamwork will greatly improve. Supervisors can know what motivating factors will work for different age groups. If we all just stop and take the time to understand different generations, we will be happier and we will work together better each day in the workplace. Have a good evening.